Hi guys, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm on with my creative team project for Helmar for December. So 'tis the season to be jolly apparently. So I am going to try and create something a little festive and a little handy. So I want to make a tag book is my plan. Let's see how it works out. So the link to Helmar will be down below. I obviously use a pile of their glues and absolutely love them, and we'll be using some for today's project. So we will get started. Now what I have done is grabbed some packaging. If you don't have any sort of thinnish board packaging, of course you could just use cardstock for this. I had a pile of these long, thin, they Creative Memories or something. I got a whole pile of stuff from Marketplace once, and there were some papers and that had this card in. So I thought this is a perfect project to get using some of that. So what I did was cut out 8 of these background pieces. I have made mine, I think it was 7 inches by 4.5. That one doesn't have inches on it, which is no help. 6, yeah, so 7 inches by 4.5. I thought that was a good size for, sometimes I get big tags in kits and that, and I wanted it to support my tags nicely, so I thought this would give me good room for any size tag that I might make. So the next thing we have to do is cover our background pages. So what I have done is printed out some of these, which are the rustic backgrounds from Tracy Fox Creative. These are on her website in the members area if you're interested. So I thought these would be great to cover our piece with here. So I'm going to use the 450 quick dry adhesive for this because the card's a bit glossy and that. I know this is going to stick to it really well. So I'm going to turn my paper upside down and just add the glue to the card would be the easiest way to do this. So once you've got your paper stuck down, go around the edges. Now you could stick both sides down and then cut your board or whatever, but I find it sort of easier to do it this way. So I'll cut this side off first. There's one of our pages done, so very easy and nice and sturdy. So the next thing I want to do is cut some pockets for my pages. Now I'm using my Big Shot to do this just because I got some pocket dies recently and I thought this would be a great project to use them. Don't stress if you don't have pocket dies though. All you do is cut your rectangle for your pocket, whatever height you think is good for your tags. And just make it a little bit longer either side and down the bottom so you can create a flap to fold up on the sides and the bottom just to give your pocket a bit more room. So that's quite easy to do just with your cardstock or whatever. But because I've got the dies, as I said, I'm going to use them. These have pre-cut holes in them, which I was going to utilise. So if you don't have a die with the pre-cut holes, cut them where you think is good. So I'm going to cut this one. I've been alternating pockets between these two dies. So you can make a slant one like this as well for yourself if you wanted to. Could cut out a template and then just trace around that and cut your pockets out. So, and that is why my base was the, was it 4.5? Because that was the measurement between here and here, not counting the little flaps. Okay, so I've got some more of my packaging. I managed to find one more piece. Initially, I wanted to cover this piece and have white on the back in case it showed, but I had so much trouble figuring out which way I wanted my dies that I got them all back to front and upside down and everything, but it didn't matter in the end. But if you've got to be wary on what side you want to put your pocket as far as cutting the coloured paper so that the holes match up on your page as well as your pocket. Unless you're doing different coloured pockets to your page. I'm trying to make my pockets the same colour as my page because I think that looks good. So I know I want my holes for the blue page over this side for this one. Of course, if it's the other side of the page, you want it that way. So that's the way I've got to cut mine, which I'll do first while I'm thinking of it, my coloured paper. I've just got to cut this down a tad to fit into my big shot. So yeah, we definitely want it that way, and it will fit like that. So I'm going to cut this first. Initially I was cutting the cardboard and the paper at the same time, but the cardboard I've got, because it's packaging with the glossy coat, wasn't cutting the holes out properly, so I ended up doing them separately and it cuts a lot better. Now, I will link these dies down below in case you want to go and check those out as well. Now, we want to cut our cardboard. So I'm having my die up the other way for this. So I'll just swap my plates around just because I know it will cut a bit better that way. Put my card on top. Doesn't matter so much about which way you have your cardboard because, as I said, once you cover it, it's not going to really matter and you're not going to see the back too much. So, and then the only holes here I need to make sure are punched out are these ones because we'll be cutting our flaps off of this part. So that is that. So the next thing we want to do is punch our holes where we want them in our page piece. So I've got the cardboard that I want to use for my pocket. Now this is just to reinforce my pocket. So what I want to do is cut the flaps off of this piece. So fortunately when I die cut it gives me the score lines to fold the flaps. So I'm sort of following along with those to cut my flaps off. So if you're making your pockets by hand, do a template for one pocket and then do another one and cut the flaps off, or just measure it and do it without the flaps, and then keep that as a template, and then you can just trace around it as many times as you need that style pocket for your tag book. So the next thing I want to do is make some little marks where I want to punch my holes. So the easiest way I found to do this is once you've cut off your flaps, you can line your pocket up where it's going to be on the page. And then I just put a tiny little dot where I want a hole punch, as centered as possible in the holes. And then if you turn this over and put it up the top of your page, because I'm going to be doing ties up the top and the bottom, I was going to use my 3-ring binders, but my journal's going to be a little bit chunky and I don't want to take any of the pages out. So I'm going to try to tie them together, but we'll see how it goes. You could use bigger rings. I need to get some bigger 3-ring binders. All right, so I can see where my holes need to be punched now. So I grab my crocodile or whatever hole punch you have. Now, with this, I can see through the hole to see where my little dot is. So I try and get that pretty well centered to punch. And I do that with all of the 6 holes. So they're the holes for the page ready. And then if we bring our pocket back, we will see that they pretty well roughly match up. They can be a little off, but it doesn't matter too much because once you sort of bound them, you don't notice as much. Now, with our pocket, we now want to stick a little reinforcement into our pocket. So that will be going on like that. So I'll just use my 450 again to do this. So make sure to line your holes up as good as you can. And then just turn it over and make sure the top isn't sticking up too much. No, that's good. Just move it a tad. And then you can give the sides a bit of a fold now. And you'll see it doesn't necessarily line up completely right there because of the bulk. You can cut this side down a bit more if you want to make these line up better, but I'm not too fussed about that. Just want to get a bit of a score in them because it will help me with the next step, hopefully. Didn't last night, but... So the next thing I want to do with both my page and my pocket is a little bit of sewing. Now this is optional, but I like the way it looks, and it also holds the edges of the paper down if you've missed getting a bit of glue on one of the edges. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch around the outside of my page. And this has faux stitching on it, so I'm going to try and follow the line. Although I noticed last night it's quite hard to see when you're at the sewing machine, and I kept going off onto the flap. But oh well, I had so many troubles, and then at one stage it was going all crooked. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but my bobbin had sort of, the thread in the bobbin had unhooked, and it was just such a disaster. But I salvaged what I could. So, yeah, so I'm not going to sew the flaps. I'm just going to go in from the edge a bit and do all around my pocket. So here I have the page all sewn around, and I have a pocket for each side. So I've got this one to go on that side and the green one to go on that side. So as you can see, we've got our insert there that we cut the flaps off of, and that's just to make it a little more sturdy. You could leave the flaps on to fold it and that, but I just find it a little bulky, so I find it better just to have the paper flaps hanging outside. I mean, you could just, if your cardstock or whatever you print on is sturdy enough, you could just use that and not use the backing card for the pockets or the pages. I'm just doing it to make it extra sturdy in case my tags end up chunky. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is a bit of inking before we put it together. So I've just got my black soot distress oxide here, and I'm going around the edges of my pages just because we've got the board showing and it's a bit white, and you can see the whites from the paper. It just takes that off. So I'll do both sides. And then where we've got the stitching, where it's come through, you can sort of see it a bit white where it's lifted the paper. It's all right on that side, but it's the back side. So I just run the ink back and forth over that, and that takes that away a bit. And that's the page done. And then with our pockets, for now I'm just going to ink the tops. And then it's ready to assemble the page. So I'm just going to use my Helmar tacky glue for this. So that is this one. I'll put it in the applicator bottle to make it easier to apply to the little fiddly parts. So I'll do the green side first. So you want to make sure you've got a good fold now on your paper. Now I do start by just putting a little nick of glue there and folding the bottom up, and just hold that for a minute until it gets sort of tacky, which does not take long with that glue. And then we can go along our flaps. Now make sure we're getting these the right way, because that is not the right way, that is. And then that will be. And then make sure you line your holes up as good as possible. Now it probably will overhang a little bit somewhere, but it doesn't matter too much. Just stick it down. Now you can see it's not perfect in there. You can see some of the bits, but once you put your binding method in, you're not going to notice that much. You could also use eyelets, but if you've got all of these holes, it would cost a mint in eyelets. So if you hole punch the holes yourself, you might just decide on 2 holes each page, and then it'll be a lot more economical for your eyelets. So that's the first pocket on. So we flip it over and attach our other pocket in the same manner. Don't look at my sewing either. It's really, really crooked. I had so much trouble with my sewing machine. And it wasn't until I got to one of the last pockets that I realised that the foot of my sewing machine was loose. I was wondering why I was going crooked all over the place. You can tell I'm no sewer. All right, so again, we want to stick the bottom up first. And then stick the rest down. See, look how wonky that stitching is. It's pretty sad. Adds character, that's what I should say. Okay, so once you've got that done, you can then go around and ink the rest of your pockets up a bit. See, there's overhang there and there a bit, but it doesn't really matter. You don't notice it that much. So that is how I'm putting together the pages. So the interior pages of my little tag book are done like this with a pocket on either side. And then the front and back page just has a pocket on the inside. We've got all our pages together and our pockets done. That was so much harder than I thought it would be. Such a simple project, but it's always the way. I was just getting all my pockets cut back to front and sewing machine giving me all that grief. And then in the end I realised I put a pocket where I didn't want one because it was going to be the back page, so I changed the back page. So I think I've got them in the order I want them now. So the next thing we have to do is figure out our binding. So I had a look at what I have around the place. As I said, you could put eyelets through, but it's quite thick, especially where you've got double pockets to put eyelets through. So I'm not going to do that. So what I found was this cord. I have stacks of it that I've picked up secondhand. And yeah, great to have a reason to use it. So I'm going to cut some lengths of that, make it longer than we need so it makes it easy to tie, but also once you bulk the journal out you can adjust the lengths. That's what I love about this form of binding a journal. Now I'm not sure whether we'll just do 2 or whether we'll do the whole 6 holes. So we'll start with the main 2 anyway, so we'll do the middle one here. Let's see if we can get it all the way through first pop. Amazing. And then you just want to tie a double knot, but you do want to leave it somewhat loose so you can turn your pages. Now what we'll do is tie a double knot here and then check. The other good thing is we can always replace this cord if we want because we've got so much of it and it looks pretty. So double knot in that. Let's see how we go turning. That works pretty good. So we'll try one down the bottom as well. So I think I might just make this one a longer one. But since we have the 6 holes, if we find once we put the tags in that we want a bit more stability with these ties, we could always add more. Ties, that is, not holes. I think it's got enough holes. That works awesome. So that's our tag book, ready to put some tags in. What I might do now is I do have a stack of decorative papers here from Tracy Fox, her December daily kit that I've been working with this month. So I thought it'd be great to use some of that and to decorate these background pieces. So I'm going to go off camera and do a light decoration of the inside pages. We don't want too much on there because of course we have to slip our tags in and out, so it has to be flat on the back there. Maybe decorate the pockets a little bit, and then I will come and do the cover with you guys just to finish it off, and then we'll have a flip through. So I stayed up last night and embellished the inside of my tag book, but I wanted to come on and do the cover with you guys. So the first thing I want to do is when I'm sticking fabric onto a cover, I really like to test the fabric with the glue first, just to see if it bleeds through easily and that, because that will determine which glue I use and how thick I apply it, obviously. So I'm going to use the 450 quick dry adhesive to apply my fabric, hopefully. So I've just got a piece of paper here and a little sample of the fabric. And just putting a bit of the glue on. Usually I put the fabric on lightly, wait for a couple of seconds and then press it down. And that way I don't get as much of a bleed through. and it's not coming through much at all. Can't see it. I can feel a little bit, but I can't see it, so it's not going to leave stones much on the fabric at all. So we will go with that. This piece of sort of a tartan, it's like a flannel, a thin flannel, cotton. Maybe flannel is cotton. I don't know my fabrics. Anyway, I'm going to stick this to the front. So just sort of like that. So I'll run glue around the area first. Gotta be careful not to put it where we can see it because it does dry a little bit glossy, this. But it holds so well, so I can always go around the edges afterwards if I want to stick it down more. So I think that will be fine. Just give it a light press down. And then a bit of a firmer press down as it dries. So I've ripped it out so that we get the rough edges, which I like the look of. Now I will go around the edges with my tacky glue just to put down the little bits that we didn't get. I'll leave the edges a bit loose so they've got the natural sort of movement of the frayed edges. Then we can start assembling the December daily kit pieces, and I have backed them onto black cardstock and cut them out. So I've got this beautiful Christmas tree, I've got a picture of Santa, and I have some poinsettias, which I think will look lovely. I also have a couple of the little tags, and I've backed them onto just old book page. I want to use those, and I have one of the words, which is the Oh Christmas Tree, and I've backed that onto the black cardstock. Now, before I forget, I wanted to stamp something on this tag. First, I think I will figure out where we're going to put things. That would go that way. And we want Santa up the top. And we want our Christmas tree up the top as well. Maybe a bit like that. So I think we'll stick Santa down. So I have inked around all of these with a brown distress ink, just to take any white edges away. Again, just using the 450 quick dry to adhere all these pieces. So no, it will stick on the fabric really well. Okay, now we want our Christmas tree, but I do want my word sneaking in probably just behind my Christmas tree. And I have a lot of the cotton bits that I cut off of when I did my sewing. I might utilise some of that just to use it rather than throwing it out, because that's the type of thing we do. So I'm thinking of putting that under my word. It might be a bit too much, so we will see. Something like that. It is a big nest. What do we think of a smaller nest? I don't mind it though. Trying to tuck all the ends in is the hard part. Maybe something like that. So I'll put a blob in the middle where our nest is going to go. And try and tuck some of the ends in. And try and just adhere We still want a bit of the height. Now this is what I need some greaseproof paper for. Just to help me press that down a bit. It's even sticking to my tweezers. Okay, I think that will do. Now I'm just going to cut this end off a bit. This will help hold my cotton down as well. Let's get a nice blob on that. Just get a bit of glue on my word, but that's all right because I think our Christmas tree might help cover that up. So I'll put that down next. I found a little star here. Got some backing paper. Oh, it has its own sticky, I think, but it's lost its stick, so we'll add some of the 450 to that to stick it down. Just a nice blob in the middle. And try and get that. It fits pretty good on top of that star. So just hold it there for a minute. I like that. Adds a bit of bling to the cover. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add my poinsettias. I do have them up the right way, don't I? Yeah, just checking. And I want to make these little tuck spots, so I'm just going to adhere them down the bottom there. Like that. I'll give them a bit of time to dry. Then I found some Christmas ribbon that says Merry Christmas. I really like that, so I'm thinking of putting that down here as well, like that. So for this, I'm going to use my tacky glue, just because I know that glue can bleed through this ribbon quite a bit. So I think if I do it finer, and I'll stick to the paper here well. I'll put some on the fabric too, and we'll just see how we go. I can always add a little bit of the 450 if I'm finding it's not sticking enough. So I'm just going to go bit by bit and do this. I might just move it over a tad. looking good so far. Then we've got our 2 tags here. I might put them in after we've put our tag booklet back together. So I will just put this on top of the other pages. And we'll grab our ties. I'd actually cut a couple more. No, I won't. The cord that I've cut before that wasn't long enough, I will use for some tags, I think. It doesn't get wasted. That way I can play around with the length a bit more. Okay, so we will stick this one through here. And then before we tie it off, I've got these gorgeous little charms that I found on some jewellery or something in the second-hand store. We've got a little wreath and a Christmas present. Oh. So I did add a gold jump ring to them because the cord wasn't fitting easy through the little loops that were on them already. So I think this will fit a bit better. It should hang a bit nicer as well. And then I'll tie a double knot. Just want to leave it a little loose, I think. So that can be adjusted whenever I like. And now we have our little journal all ready to go. Love those little charms. Might have to turn him around the other way, but that's all right. So now we can start putting our tags in while we have a look through. So what I did was cut out a pile of the tags that come with the digital kit that I'm using to put in the pockets in this, because it's a great way of storing your tags ready for when you want to use them. So I haven't backed these or embellished them or anything. They're just to be put away for when I do want to use them. But firstly, in the cover, we want to slip in these tags. So I've got this one that will go in there. And then this one where I stamped festive tags, because this book is for my festive tags. And that goes there. So that's the cover. And then we can open it up and start putting our other ones away. And I can show you what I've done in here. So it's very simple embellishment. I've used the words that were in the kit. They're like carol, words from carols and that. So this one's All Is Calm. And I've used the beautiful pictures as well. And I was on a mission. I told myself I have to use a bit of my old wrapping paper on each page, whether it goes or not. So that's what I've done. I've backed the pockets with just a little bit of wrapping paper, which was heaps of fun and great to use. So I just love the way it's turned out. So I've got these beautiful tags, which will slip into this pocket. This one will slip in there. Love the backgrounds as well. So I stuck everything down in here with the tacky glue. Then we've got Father Christmas in the word Jingle Bells. Love the little duck. They go in there. So when I want to go making a tag now, I can just turn through this, see what tags I've got quite easily. And you could even embellish your tag and then put it back in here. This is holly and ivy, so it's got pictures of the holly and the ivy. I love this. This is one of my favourite pages. Use some gold wrapping paper on those. And let it snow. Yuletide. It's so much fun making this. Then it's cold outside. And then Silent Night. So I could still fit a fair few of these blank tags in here when I want to. And then on the last page, got the beautiful Nutcracker and Happy Holidays. So I love the way that turned out. It's quite a simple project, but it's a great way to store your tags, and it was so much fun to put that all together. Massive thank you to Helmar's for the product. Absolutely love it. So do check out the link below to the Helmar blog where everyone shows their projects. There's also a link to Helmar if you want to have a look at their products, if you want to purchase any, and also if you have any inquiries about their product. I need to put another order in myself soon because I love to buy in bulk direct from Helmar. I buy a year's worth. I don't have to worry about going out getting glue and finding it in the shops and everything, so it actually saves me money on petrol to do it that way. And I must do that soon because I craft so much that I do go through a fair pile of glue. And I absolutely love it, having a ball. Christmas is such a fun time to craft. So I wish you all the very best and safest Christmas ever. I hope you have a whole heap of fun, whether you celebrate or not. And even better, get into some Christmas crafting because I think it helps take the stress away from what can be quite a busy and stressful season. So do take care, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.